Good morning. So today I started Ecclesiastes and I read Ecclesiastes 1 through 4. And I had never, well, like a lot of these things, I had never actually read through this, but I've heard, the teachings of King Solomon and a little bit about what he's trying to get across in this. But right off the bat, I never knew that King Solomon was King David's son, so I'm already learning there. But it's funny because the way it starts out is that it says everything is meaningless, and that feels really depressing. But I know where this story goes because I've learned about it in church, and basically, spoiler alert, basically what King Solomon learns is that not everything is pointless except for Jesus, except for God, except for getting to heaven and living life in eternity in heaven. And that everything that our flesh wants, whether that be, immoral desires or moral desires, it doesn't really matter. If you get pleasure out of hard work, or you get pleasure out of not working, or if you want to be rich and then you get that money and you get that house and you get that car, that it feels empty. And as someone who has gone through that process, I went from, living in a bad area in a bad apartment and having virtually no money, being really in debt, to now I live in this beautiful place and I absolutely love it. Like, don't get me wrong, nice things are nice, but I got here and I felt this like emptiness still, and it was actually really disappointing because, I was like, "Oh, I feel like I've made it. Like, I should feel fulfilled," and that's what he's talking about. Not only did I not feel fulfilled, but I kept longing for more, which is one of the reasons that I'm like a habitual business starter, is because I feel like I need more. So where am I at today? I feel fulfilled, and it's because I'm reading my Bible. It's because I'm learning. So let's see what Solomon had to say as we're going through this. I just highlighted a few parts here. Let me show you. All right, so this is where we're at, and we'll talk about what I highlighted. So again, King Solomon, he basically is like, hey, I had concubines, I've had the best food, I built these houses, I got really smart, I tried working really hard. So anyways, let's go on. So it says in here, it says, but I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish. It was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. So again, he's talking about how like he reached all of his goals, and he's like, it's kind of like chasing the wind. You'll never catch it. That what you're seeking, you will never find by pursuing earthly things. Later on, he says, yet I saw the wise and the foolish share the same fate. Both will die. So that feels a little feudalistic. Like, what's the point of trying? Like, why should I work hard? Why should I be a good person? Why should I forego my sinly and fleshly desires? At the end of the day, we're all going to die. Later on, he says, the wise will not be remembered for any longer than the fool. In the days to come, both will be forgotten. And it's funny because my mind immediately went to like someone like Elon Musk, who, if he does land on Mars and he gets humans to Mars, he will be remembered for a really, really long time. But even someone like him will be forgotten. The people in this Bible, they'll be remembered forever because the Bible will exist forever. But beyond the Bible, everything else will be forgotten. Um, George Washington, everybody in the United States and across the world, for the most part, probably knows who George Washington is. But if Jesus doesn't come down and end the earth as we know it, after 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, let's project it forward 1,000,000 years from now, no one's going to know who these people are. So he's right when he says this. Later in 3, he says, yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from the beginning to the end. Later, he says, people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. So before he said, what's the point? What is the point of working hard and accomplishing goals and doing godly things? Like, why shouldn't I just do sinful things? We're all going to die. We're all going to end up in the same place, and we'll all be forgotten. But then he tells us here, we should do these things because they are gifts from God. Like, people ask all the time, what is the point of us being on this earth? This life is a gift from God. It is supposed to be a gift. It is, but not everybody enjoys gifts. Some people can take a gift and use it the wrong way. And, we're here to enjoy what God has given us. But he also tells us, hey, in order to enjoy this gift, here's like a user manual, right? And not everybody wants to use the user manual. And if you don't, a lot of times it's going to end up in hardship and heartache instead of it feeling like a gift. Continuing, he says, God makes the same things happen over and over again. So he's talking about how like this is not a unique problem to him in his time. And as we know, that's not a unique problem to us in our time. This has been an issue from the beginning of time until the end. He continues, I also noticed that under the sun, there's evil in the courtroom. And man, that is as true today as it was back in his time. I think politically speaking, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, there are always these discussions about the Supreme Court and this justice is corrupt here and this justice is corrupt here. And I can't believe that the left are doing this and that people on the right are doing this. What he's saying is that evil has always existed in the courts because from the Garden of Eden, evil has existed, right? Sorry, I'm making lunch and my smoke alarm might go off. So if it does, I'll go around and turn it off. But anyway, the last thing I highlighted here, because as he continues on, he talks about the advantages of companionship. And I just thought this was really important. It says 2 people are better off than 1. And I didn't highlight this, but I do want to bring it up. It later says that 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. And so is he talking about marriage? Is he talking about friendship? I don't think he's trying to specify, but I think what he's saying is that don't do life alone. If you can find a spouse that you can do life with and link arms with and attack evil and not only attack evil, but like fight for Jesus and good, that is going to be way better. You're going to be stronger if you have someone that has your back. He says in here that if you're standing alone, you are easily defeated. But if you are back to back, you can defeat all your enemies. And then when he continues on with the triple braided cord, it's kind of the same thing. Like picture if I'm standing here and somebody comes up and shoves me, I'm going to fling back, right? If somebody big and strong shoves me really hard, I'm going to go flying back. But if I have someone behind me on my back, they're going to hold me up. But if the enemy's big enough and strong enough, they can shove both of us over. But if I have my arm linked over here and this one linked over here and people are holding either side of me, that big, strong guy, they can push me as hard as they want, but I'm going to be held up because I am in relationship with these people that have my back. So that's where I ended today. I'm actually really excited to read through this. I think what King Solomon went through, and he basically tried everything under the sun to try to get fulfillment, and he comes to the conclusion that it's all pointless. You need to have Jesus. And I love his point because that is my story. So anyways, that's all for now. I'm going to keep reading this and we'll keep making these videos, guys. Again, please read your Bibles. Reading my Bible has changed everything in my life. So I hope it can do the same for you. And if you do it, I know it will. All right. We'll see you soon.